That's a clip from Man of Steel, and I'm delighted to say we have been joined by the Man of Steel, Superman himself, Henry Cavill. Henry, thank you very much indeed for joining us. The posters are everywhere. You're on every newspaper. Wherever people look, they're seeing photographs and posters of Superman. Did you ever think that this would happen?
No. It's not like sort of I thought whether it would or would not happen, but it's not something that I would have ever hoped for because it just seems too wild a hope.
Yeah. I mean, you've been around on our TVs for a while, and we've seen you in Midsummer Murders and Inspector Lynley, I think.
Yep.
And you were certainly the Duke of Suffolk, in the Tudors. You had some fun there, didn't you? Anyway,
The character certainly did, yeah.
yes, and you've come very close and famously almost got, apparently, you can correct me if I'm wrong, nearly got the Superman gig in 2006 and so on. But now here you are, you're the man. Tell us how you actually got the gig in the first place and how you got to wear the suit.
Goodness, how I got the gig in the first place. I came off a job called Cold Light of Day, and then I heard that they were making a new Superman movie, and so I thought, well, this is fantastic. I'd definitely love to go to that. I've got that much more experience now as opposed to all those years ago, and life experience also, which helps with the old acting. And so I auditioned in London.
What do you have to do to audition for Superman?
This time round, they give you some scenes, and they gave us generic hero scenes. It wasn't scenes from the script itself, and so just did a couple of those with a casting director from Warner Brothers who flew over to London, who I'd met previously during my run all those years ago. And then Christmas happened. They told me I was going to screen test in January. I screen tested very early January, where they had me put on the Christopher Reeve replica suit and did a couple of scenes from the movie.
Did it fit?
Because it was a replica suit, yes, they fitted it to me.
Okay.
And it fit a little too well, in fact. I was not in the best of shape and didn't leave much up to the imagination. And so I was absolutely mortified walking out of that trailer onto the set, thinking, I'm definitely not going to get this job. But for whatever reason, something happened and the stars aligned, and they told me a few weeks later that I was in.
Can you remember how you felt when you looked at yourself in the mirror wearing the Superman kit for the first time? I mean, does it feel ludicrous? Does it feel empowering? Does it feel exciting?
That's a unique feeling, and it's one I will never, ever forget, because there was so much love and respect for the character poured into the creation of this suit and into the actual, just the smallest things like the measuring and the choice of materials and putting it together, that the suit genuinely had its own physical energy. When I looked in the mirror for the first time after all of those fittings, it wasn't like, I was looking at myself wearing a Superman suit. It felt in the room that we were creating something. There was a special energy in the room. And even wearing the suit on set, I felt different. And people treated me differently. They looked at me differently. So the suit had its own force.
How close did you get in 2006?
I have no idea. It was a completely different movie to what actually came out. I mean, I was on with a different director, McG, with a different script. Different suit and everything as far as the screen test went, and then that movie all fell apart. And when Bryan Singer came on with his script, I just didn't fit into his vision. And so whether I had got the role for the McG movie and then the movie fell apart, or whether I was just still on a short list, I don't know.
Because people have talked about how you came close to that and you came close to James Bond, and so it must be pretty soul destroying though when as I say, we mentioned Duke of Suffolk, and I remember seeing you in Red Riding Hood, and I enjoyed that movie, but it must be kind of soul. You must think, really, what do I have to do to get the big gig? Did you ever think of packing it in?
I certainly thought of packing it in, and part of it is soul destroying, and other parts not necessarily soul destroying. I mean, you don't get it, you move on, boo hoo. But it was the idea of, am I doing the right thing here? Am I wasting my years when I could in fact be doing something else which I would be succeeding in? I mean, I was always told I was one of the better guys who walked into the room, or I was perfect for the role, but then I wouldn't get it for odd reasons. And the one which really got me was, you're not a name. And I thought, well, okay, how are you supposed to become a name if you're not giving me any roles?
Yeah.
But eventually it happened through things like the Bond screen test. It was down to me and Daniel, and I got my name in Variety and the Hollywood Reporter and all that stuff, and the name built very slowly, and then the Tudors happened, and then that sort of, added to my name, and then I could start doing, I could actually be genuinely considered for some of the bigger jobs. And with this one, I just got very, very fortunate when it came down to Superman, because they were looking for someone who was relatively unknown.
That was my next question. I just wonder if being a comparative newcomer then in this is absolutely perfect, because we don't go. I think there would be very few people in America, even though the Tudors were shown there, who are going to go, "Hey, that's that guy." We're seeing Henry. You are a new Superman, and I wonder if, when you're doing the interviews in America, Henry, whether there's a Hugh Laurie thing or a Damian Lewis thing, when you start to talk and they go, "Oh, hang on, you sound a little bit as though you're British."
Okay. I have had that quite a few times, in fact, with the press junkets and interviews so far. But that's a great thing. I mean, that's the whole point of being an actor. We are supposed to fool people.
And the American accent, was it a particular accent that you went for? Is this a standard American accent that you have used in the past? How is Superman supposed to speak?
We wanted to go for... He's from the Midwest, and we wanted to go for a Midwestern accent, but we didn't want to go incredibly heavy Midwest. We wanted to sort of have that Midwest flavour to it, but otherwise sort of sound standard American, but to be true to where he's from.
I wonder, playing Superman, because we love the superhero movies, and we've been watching them a lot recently, but there's very little moral ambiguity to Superman. I mean, he is a Superman. Mm-hmm. He just does the right thing. He doesn't appear to be conflicted. We see in this movie how he has had a rough time, and it's difficult for him to work out how Earthlings are going to react to him and so on. So there's that. But there doesn't appear to be any sort of moral conflict in him.
Certainly in previous live-action incarnations, that is the case. And I think in this one, we add more of the choice. It's just he happens to want to do the right thing because of his upbringing and something sort of inherent in him. But it's definitely always a choice. I mean, there are points where he does the wrong thing, certainly. And if he does do the wrong thing, he tries to make amends for it. But as much as he's not subject to the frailties of the human flesh, he's very much subject to the frailties of the human mind.
And on the subject of the flesh, the fitness regime that you went through, you've already mentioned the fact that you were slightly out of shape when you put on the first Superman outfit. I mean, and we see, and you're clearly looking absolutely fantastic. Let's be absolutely honest about this. The regime they put you through was what?
It was very long and grueling, but enormously rewarding. Mark Twight and Michael Blevins from a company called Jim Jones in Utah.
Can they do 300?
They did, yes. They put me through the ringer, all sorts of different kind of workouts, just to get me used to the work, to get me into the technique of each movement, and then, the heavy lifting, mass building stuff with sprint cardio to, really build some size with lots and lots of calories going in. Then a bit of leaning down afterwards, because with mass building you always put on some fat, and then just sort of sculpting and maintenance and fine-tuning throughout shooting until we went up to the shirtless scenes, which involved a lot more cardio and a huge calorie drop just to really lean up.
Yeah. I think if I were you, I'd quite like to stay looking like that, though. But the temptation must be...
Easier said than done, I'm afraid.
Yeah. As soon as you finish, you must think, can I have a pizza and 3 beers, please?
Well, there was certainly... I was allowed some breaks throughout, and after my first leaning phase, my first sort of extreme leaning phase for my first shirtless shot, I did manage to eat an entire apple pie, which Deborah Snyder and Zach bought for me.
That's very Superman, though.
A tub of ice cream and a large pizza. I took no prisoners that day.
Just a couple of things about the people who you were working alongside. First of all, Russell Crowe, who is one of 2 fathers that you have, both a Robin Hood.
Yes,
of course.
My next role, Robin Hood.
Excellent.
Or Son of Hood.
That's an exclusive. I think he's joking, by the way. I think so.
Maybe I am. Maybe
but
I'm
he's your. I understand he's your favourite actor, and there's this fantastic sort of moment many years ago where you met him when you were at school. Is that all true?
It's very true. He's certainly one of my favourite actors. I respect him enormously as an actor and a professional. I met him many, many years ago when I was 16 years old in boarding school. He was shooting a movie from Proof of Life, and I was one of the extras. It was before I was a professional actor. And I walked up to him, stuck my hand out, and said, "Hi, I'm considering trying to become an actor. What's it like?" And he said to me, "Well, they pay you very well, but sometimes they don't treat you so well." And we had a short laugh over that, and then people sort of started running up and asking for autographs and all sorts, and so I just waved at him and said goodbye. But 2 days later, he sent me an Aussie Rugby jersey, thing of Vegemite, some Australian sweets, his band CD, and a picture of him in Gladiator saying, "Dear Henry, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, Russell."
Wow.
And cut to all
That's a
those
good
years
guy
later.
thing.
It's a great guy thing. And he was playing my dad at the most pivotal point of my life so far.
And is it Man from U.N.C.L.E. next? That's what which is a fantastic project. I mean, for people of a certain age who grew up watching this, Napoleon Solo, and Ilya Kuryakin, David McCallum, and Robert Vaughn. This is seminal television. Is this true? You're involved with this, Henry?
It's indeed very true, with Guy Ritchie directing and Armie Hammer playing Ilya.
Well, we'll look forward to that. And Henry, congratulations. Thanks very much indeed for speaking to us, and all the best for Superman. I imagine there are other Supermen movies on the way.
I have no idea. This is all sort of up in the air. We shall see. Watch
Okay.
this space.
Henry Cavill, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.